Shalom everyone. This is a discussion which we recorded on the 19th of June 2022 with Sha'ul. And this is a random interaction, different topics, and this wasn't really something we prepared for. Actually, what we prepared for was something else. So we can call it a debate or a discussion, whatever. But just bear in mind that both of us was preparing for something else. However, eventually we decided that it might be useful for you to listen to this and might find it educational. The real debate, however, is just postponed. We are going to find a different date and we're going to sit down, talk about Deuteronomy 30th chapter and how that relates to New Testament. I think we managed to talk in a civilized manner, and I think that's the most important thing to remember. No matter how much we disagree with others, we are called to represent Yahuah in a manner which is acceptable and brings esteem to his name. And this is what we were trying to do. So, all right, I understood the following. So what you say is that now we don't need animal sacrifices for our sins, and people have a need.
Well, no, I'm not saying that it's not needed. I'm saying that we do not currently have an active priesthood with the presence of Yah in the tabernacle amongst us, for those things to be acceptable.
So that herein lies the problem. So what do you do with sin? If I die today, what will happen? If I didn't sacrifice, well, and again, also I committed sin.
The offerings in and of themselves are simply rituals in terms of commandments that you are supposed to follow to exemplify our transgressions and our offerings to Yah of our heart and for forgiveness. But again, Yah said in Deuteronomy chapter 28 that his people would be taken into exile and scattered amongst the nations. So are we saying then that for, say, from the time of Babylon up until now, are we saying then that all these people have no forgiveness? No.
Well, I don't know what you think, but I believe that we don't need animal sacrifices because Yahusha Mashiach's sacrifice is sufficient. And that's the problem, I think. And also, again, that's fine. We just don't see the same message. However, they a little bit more than just rituals or sacrifices, as in the beginning of Vaikra or Leviticus, the first 7 chapters details quite meticulously what you need to do, and that is that there's more than just a ritual. You sin and you bring a sacrifice, and after that, 16th chapter makes it clear that you have to do once a year the Day of Atonement, and the next chapter makes it clear that blood is for atonement. The 17th chapter, the life of the creature is in the blood, and I gave you the blood for atonement for your sin. So you do need sacrifice. It's not something that one can just choose or ritualistically do. If it happens, you either sacrifice that or you are the...
So once again, because there is no Jesus in the time of Moses or the time of David, you know that.
Yes.
So there was no Jesus.
Yeah.
So that being the case, how do you imagine that people were forgiven when there was no sacrifices?
Oh, there was a priesthood, as you said. There were
No,
priests.
we're talking about a time when they were scattered to the nations. The Levitical priesthood was not making offerings.
Yeah.
So you have to admit at some point that Paul was wrong.
No,
Paul
no,
says
there was priesthood. Sorry,
no.
in
Paul
Jerusalem
says
there was.
in Hebrews that there was always blood up until Christ, and that's absolutely false.
No,
Because for many years they were taken into bondage.
but not
There
everybody.
was no tabernacle. Excuse me?
But not everybody. There wasn't a time when
the tabernacle was not always performing offerings up until Christ. That's absolutely false.
not even in his the Messianic writings, you can read about offerings. Even Sha'ul, or the apostle Sha'ul, went to offer sacrifices. So there was a priesthood.
Read Hosea chapter 11.
I give you that there was a time when there was no tabernacle, but there's always been priesthood.
No, there has not always been an active priesthood. No. And in fact, Hosea chapter 11, as I said, if you read Hosea chapter 11, it tells you very clearly that for numerous years, your people shall be without priest and without offerings. It's very clear on that.
Yeah.
So prior to the New Testament, and Herod's temple doesn't count. I mean, that's laughable. His restoration during the time of Maccabees is ridiculous. So at some point, New Testament believers have to admit that prior to the New Testament, for hundreds of years, there were no offerings for the people of Israel. No sacrifices, no Day of Atonement, none of that.
Yeah, but still, if you read the Tobit, for example, I don't know if you read Apocrypha or at all. But however, the people were doing sacrifices regardless of priesthood or not, because there was no other option. So we're not talking about on a mass scale people doing sacrifices, but whoever followed Torah was aware of the need for sacrifices.
So you're saying Hosea chapter 11 was wrong?
No,
that for many days there were priests and offerings taking place in the king?
Is it because I think for me it's a different numbering, but let me see. No. If it's written, hey, that's what it is. I admit to that. There was no priesthood, but that doesn't mean there was no need for sacrifices. And if you read, and I don't want to jump too far, but however, Hebrews 11th chapter writes about an interesting thing, and that is, so he says, and he's talking about faith and faithful people, and he says, and these all having obtained a good report through faith, meaning these people got the good report because they believed, received not the promise. Nem kapták meg az ígéretet. Elohim having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. So there was a, sorry, sometimes I just speak Hungarian. So there was a time period that had to be fulfilled until the promise came, and the promise was his word in flesh, which is Yahushua HaMashiach. And that was the atonement for everybody's sin who believed. That's what Hebrews quite clearly says. And I understand you don't accept this, however, that doesn't make it not valid in my eyes. So that his sacrifice was sufficient back and forth for everybody who believed, admitting that yes, there was no active priesthood for some time, but that doesn't mean there's no need for sacrifice. And that's what I'm saying, if you with me. What I'm saying is, yes, there was no priesthood, but it doesn't mean there's no need for sacrifice. You with me?
I didn't say that there wasn't a need for it. I'm
Right.
saying that when Yah prophesied that he's taking away his offerings and his festivals from his people, he's scattering them to the nations, they'll no longer be able to observe the Torah. He states very clearly that there is still forgiveness for them.
Yeah. All right.
If they
Fine.
repent amongst the nations. So that's without any offerings. And this is before Jesus, before this New Testament stuff came along.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Without offering, right there and then. But that doesn't mean there's no need for offering. That's why. This is what I heard from.
No, I'm saying that in the future, Yah says very clearly in Deuteronomy 30 that he's going to bring his people back to the land, and there will be offerings.
Yeah.
So, this completely contradicts any idea of this New Testament once and for all offering, because, and same thing if you read Ezekiel. Every New Testament scholar will admit that Ezekiel prophesied of a future temple.
Absolutely.
And this has never happened.
No, it hasn't.
And
chapter 40 to 48 has not happened.
Mm-hmm. Right. So he dedicates 8 chapters
Yes.
to future offerings. And this is completely contradictory to the New Testament.
No, it doesn't.
His offering had ended the offerings.
No, it doesn't contradict it. This is still what I'm saying. There is an era, which is the first 6,000 years, when there has to be an offering for sin. Either way.
No, but Jesus ended that. So why have a future temple?
He was the offering. So my sin now, his sacrifice is the sacrifice. Yes, he did end physical sacrifice till the end of the 6,000 year. But
easy. So what are you going to do with Ezekiel's temple?
That's a millennial kingdom, they call it. What Ezekiel talks about. It's abundantly clear that the period he's talking about is a millennial kingdom. So that doesn't mean, there's a different system. But now this is a different system. As he says, Hebrews says it's a Melchizedek system. So that's a different kind of priesthood than the Levitical priesthood. And that does come back in the millennial kingdom as Ezekiel writes it.
So why have offerings in a future temple?
Because he always wanted Torah to govern the earth, and he will show us that Torah can govern the earth, and he will go back to Torah, and there's going to be a king and a priest according to the priesthood of Melchizedek, and that's going to be David and Yahushua HaMashiach. That's what the writings are clear about. So I agree that there is no priesthood, but there's no need for priesthood. His sacrifice is a sacrifice for our sins. And you must know from Torah, I believe it's Shemot 24, that there is a tabernacle in heaven, because that was the pattern Moshe made the tabernacle on earth. So if there's a tabernacle in heaven, there is a sacrifice in that tabernacle. And his blood is that sacrifice. So this is what I'm saying.
Oh, that's New Testament belief. But all it says is that Yah gave to Moshe basically a blueprint as to how he's to build it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that such a thing existed up in Shemaim.
He said it according to the pattern what you saw.
Right. So Yah showed him a blueprint. Not that it's something in heaven.
Well, we just
showed him something that he needed to build here.
Yeah, we just don't agree on that, but that's fine. I believe that there is something. So why would he come up with that pattern? What is in heaven then?
Heaven doesn't need to be cleansed. There's no transgression there.
Well, what about the Malachim who fell down?
Well, that's according to New Testament belief. It's not in the Old Testament at all.
Well, it's in Chanok, in Enoch, Jubilees.
Well, you're talking apocryphal writings that you're talking about writings that were written long after the time of David, from people who had departed from Yah's Torah.
So was written all the other, writings long after the events happened.
Right.
It wasn't Moshe who wrote Torah.
What I'm saying is that Yah said in Deuteronomy chapter 6 and chapter 4, do not add or take away, do not distort his Torah.
Yes.
So if there's a writing that comes along after the Torah, Yah said he's going to test his people. He's going to send them false prophets and dreamers and writers to deceive his people and to test them and try them. So any writing that's outside of the Torah that disagrees with the Torah, you have to throw it out.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So, and this goes back to anything outside of that. So the first writing that you come to outside of Deuteronomy is Judges.
Well,
and what do we?
It's Yahusha or Joshua, actually. Right? The first after Deuteronomy is, or maybe chronologically, sorry, yeah, but is Yahusha or Joshua the next, no? Oh, hang on, so it's frozen. Give me a second. Hold on for a second. It's got frozen.
Your explanation is a typical Christian. It's called redaction. It means that something is read back into something. Now, we don't see anywhere in the Torah that Yah says a man is going to die for our transgressions in the future, and that it's going to cover the transgressions of people in the past. In fact, what I was reading from Deuteronomy chapter 29, it says that every man is going to die for his own transgressions, and we find that in Ezekiel as well. So, in any case, you can't just say, make up your own doctrine that isn't even found in the New Testament, that Jesus' sins forgives the people in the past who didn't have him.
Well, I didn't make it up. It's clear from the New Testament writings, as I read from Hebrews, that that's the case. So I didn't make it up.
No, you're saying that the New Testament claims that Jesus is in the Old Testament, that Abraham foresaw him, and this kind of nonsense. But there's no claim anywhere in the Tanakh that Abraham was looking to some son of Yah. In fact, Yah says in Exodus chapter 4 that Yisrael, Israel, is his son.
Well, then, the problem arises then if you accept that Israel is the suffering servant, then how come Israel is able to atone for other nations' sin as a suffering servant and not a person?
Well, this is if you agree with Isaiah's writings, but Isaiah chapter 53 is very clear. If you read chapter 54, it clarifies everything that chapter 53 is talking about. Everyone likes to talk about chapter 53. They don't want to talk about chapter 52 and chapter 54. I'm sorry, you can't just take one chapter and separate it, because in the original scroll of Isaiah, they didn't have chapter separations.
Of course.
It was just one written scroll, all in Hebrew, all in Hebrew. You just kept reading from one line to the next. Now, chapter 54 is very clear that, yes, Yah makes his people a suffering servant, but in chapter 54 it says that this is a song of rejoicing, because the suffering servant will overcome and indeed be restored. So chapter 54 goes on to talk about the rejoicing of the suffering servant who is now restored back to their position of prosperity.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can read those for yourself if you want.
Well, of course, but what does that mean then? But there's clearly a suffering servant, so it doesn't matter how we put it. Who
well, it matters
either way,
when
just clear what it says, and I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
So, despised, rejected by man of pains, knowing sickness, and even if we accept that it's not Yahusha, that's okay. And there's one from whom the face is hidden. You know it better than I do. So who is this then? It's just a song?
As it says. It's a song of the servant song, yes.
So who is that servant who takes on the suffering and sickness of others? Is it Israel? Is it Yahusha? Is it someone else? Because someone has to be. We cannot just say it's a song about a fictional character.
Yeah, and number one, it cannot be Jesus, and I've proven this in other debates. Jesus does not fit
that's fine.
Isaiah 53. Jesus does not fit Isaiah 53 because, number one, he was never sick. He was never suffering except on the cross.
I think the person who talked with a person. I'm sorry, I don't remember who that was, but he just put it perfectly. Death is a sickness. So if you take everything literally, then it's very difficult to understand scriptures. And also, I think it's disingenuous to sometimes say, okay, this is not literal. This is an allegory, or this is a song, and sometimes, and the other times saying that, okay, this now is literal. So we cannot just say, okay, when I want it is literal, and when I don't want it, it's not. All right. Even though if you don't agree, that's fine.
I always accept it as literal. The text is always literal. It's Messianics and New Testament believers that make it spiritual. So you're saying that spiritually, death is not a sickness. I'm sorry. It's a different word in Hebrew.
It doesn't matter.
And you know that as well as I do. That
it doesn't matter if it's a... Sorry.
No, the word for sickness is chuli. And it definitely means when you are diseased.
Yeah.
It's the same word that's used in the writings of Job. Okay, when it says that he was stricken with sickness.
All right, so if we are at Job, so if you take it literally, in chapter 41, when it talks about Leviathan, is it a literal?
Absolutely.
How come is it, you can't listen? I agree there's a literal Leviathan. All right? I do believe so, that there's but it has to have a deeper meaning than that. And I show you why. In the last I think it's 41, sorry if it's not. It says, no one on earth is like him, one made without fear. So it cannot be literal, because no one on earth, obviously, people aren't like him. So it has to have a deeper meaning. And in the last verse, he says, he sees all that is haughty. He's sovereign over all the sons of pride. So is Leviathan a literal sovereign with a crown on his head somewhere and ruling people of pride? This is not a literal text. And this is not the only one.
Well, I don't take those texts as equal to the Torah.
Even though
these are definitely people's beliefs that were put into writings that are outside the Torah. So I mean, regardless of how you take it, but I mean it.
But do we agree that this is not a literal monster in that regard? What I said. So do we agree in that that's not talking about a literal crocodile sitting
disagree.
somewhere?
I disagree. He's referring to a creature that's in the sea. And he's very clear about that. So he's using that as a symbol
of
what he's talking about.
Right. So there's a different language. We need to understand that. So it's not literal. Not everything is literal. So if that's not, there could be many of them.
It's a literal creature in the sea that he's referring to, which has not been identified by scholars. And it's readily admitted by scholars that they don't exactly know which creature he's referring to specifically.
How can he be a sovereign over the sons of pride? Is there an empire there? And I'm not being
you are being facetious.
No. Listen, if we talk about literal or allegorical, then it cannot be anything else. You understand? I have to. If you take it literally, then you have to tell me you think there is a place on earth or somewhere, but there's a crocodile sitting with a crown on his head, and there are sons of pride he's sovereign over, or is this something else he wants to tell us? Because there's no other way.
I'm saying that there's literal and symbolic aspects to these texts.
Exactly.
But you're not admitting that there's a literal aspect to
Absolutely,
this.
I do. I started with that I do believe there is a Leviathan, a creature somewhere. So I absolutely agree with you. So we are agreed.
So again, I don't know how we got onto this topic.
I tell you how, because you say we cannot take anything just literally. And I wanted to show you a text that we cannot take just literally. You say everything is literal.
The suffering servant of Isaiah 53 that we were talking about is definitely literal.
Well, in some respect it is.
No, Yeshua Jesus was never sick. I'm sorry, he was never a suffering servant.
Because you take
Except
everything
was-
literally. Of course he was. He was scourged. Many things. That's suffering.
And that's another issue, which, you know, historically speaking, we have no record of Pilate or Herod.
And we don't have
Ever
record none of
mentioning-
Moshe, Joshua. None of them.
That's wrong.
No, that's not
Actually,
wrong.
we do have lots of archaeological and historical evidence
Oh,
for
well,
the existence
as much as
of
we
the
have
church.
about the New Testament, so that's fine.
No, absolutely not.
So what do we have about Moshe? Nothing.
Michelle, you've got
Zero.
lots from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula.
What
You've got
is it?
lots of archaeology. Just Google the Exodus case.
Oh, I
You'll
understand
find
that
that
the
there's,
wheels under the sea and all that, you know, that's like dinosaurs.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine. You know, that
No,
cannot be
I
a
like
proof.
dinosaurs.
No, what I'm saying is, listen, do you believe in dinosaurs?
No,
And if I understand you believe in flat Earth, as I do, or something like that, so you don't accept the globe and all that. So you cannot believe in dinosaurs and 6 billion years and all that.
right.
So I can make wheels under the sea and say that's that, like I make dinosaurs. What I'm trying to say, I do not doubt Moshe existed. What I'm saying is we cannot say, okay, I don't accept history, but I accept this part, and surely they telling the truth. And also, what about the
but
manuscripts?
regardless of whether you think he existed or not, the issue is that even some Jewish scholars have tried to paint Jesus as this great Torah rabbi, and in Matthew chapter 5, he contradicts the Torah at least 5 times.
But you said he didn't exist. Now he existed, and he was a rabbi. So which one is it then?
There's historical proof that Pilate or Herod
scholars
executed such a man as Jesus.
I listened to Richard Dawkins, who's the most atheist person that can be, and even he said, and I can share the video if I don't forget, that none of the scholars, or majority of the scholars, agree that there was a person like Jesus, he called it. So there's no debate about his existence. The question is the same as it was then. Is he a son of God, or is he just a normal person? So no one debates if Jesus existed. You understand me?
Well, they do. But
none of the
you
people...
you don't want to admit it, but there is no historical evidence that Pilate or Herod ever executed or acknowledged such a man.
Yes, that's true what you're saying. That's
Thank
true.
you. Okay, so having gone there, he is not a suffering servant in Isaiah 53, and Isaiah 53 also says that in his suffering he rejoices to see his seed. That's with reference to his children.
Yeah.
And also that he also goes to war.
Yeah.
Which is what chapter 50. That's what chapter 54 is about.
Yeah.
So chapter 54 is about the victorious war of Israel or Israel being restored,
yes,
as a servant to its original kingdom and prosperity.
Ezekiel 38, 39.
So, okay.
Gog and
So
Magog.
if you agree on that, then
Yes.
how can Jesus be the suffering servant?
He's going to come back, and Ezekiel 38, 39 makes it clear that Gog and Magog, he's going to be the one who destroys them with the breath of his mouth. So he will be a conqueror's sovereign, if you will, but he's not yet. So it's not a problem. It cannot be. But I think what I understood from the videos I watched of your videos is that sometimes it's just too literal, the understanding and the interpretation, and that's not a problem, because I agree with you that first it has to make sense literally. However, not everything is literal. We can, as I proved with Job, but I can show you many different, and also that's the problem. We can go back. You cannot cite Kings, Isaiah, Hosea as proof that what you're saying is right, and then just discredit Job and other times the same writings when it doesn't agree with what you're saying. I think these are opportunities to make errors, because I'm not sure who's the one of us who tries to bend what's written in order to prove what he believes. All right? And I don't want to accuse you with any maliciousness with that. So this is just my take on that. But coming back to the suffering servant, he was suffering according to the Chronicles. And nobody debates that the manuscripts are saying something consistently. You understand? If you were studying that you must know. There are thousands of manuscripts saying the same thing, with very little variance. Which means that that has to be the truth. And no manuscripts of the Old Testament. None, zero. But Septuagint...
I'm not exactly sure the point of what you're
What I'm saying is 50,000 manuscripts, dozens of languages, cannot say the same thing if that wasn't the truth. How can you forge something across time, across languages, geography, and I mean areas? You cannot forge that. Now you could forge.
Just because the Epic of Gilgamesh was preserved in numerous languages and so on and so forth doesn't mean that the Epic of Gilgamesh is true.
How many manuscripts there are of the Gilgamesh epos? How many? None.
What I'm saying is that just because texts were preserved doesn't mean that they're true or that they're from Yah. So Yah said very clearly in the Torah that you are not to add or take away from his Torah. And what I read earlier from today, Nehemiah chapter 8, is that they read from the Torah when they were established as a people.
Yes.
So when they came back from exile, when they established themselves again, they established themselves based upon the Torah, not these other writings that you're referring to.
I agree.
So again, it goes back to the Torah. And Deuteronomy chapter 30 is very clear as to what's going to happen in the future, and we'll talk about that in our future debate.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I had hoped that our discussion would get you to at least think about the fact that nowhere in the Old Testament were they believing in Jesus. And you can't just say that, like Paul said, that all these forefathers, they looked and they saw him, because they never mention it.
Well,
so this is Christian thinking, it's Messianic thinking to think.
That is not true that he's never mentioned. Sorry. It's just not true. Of course, there's no Jesus. But that's the problem again. If you expect me to show you scriptures where there's a name, Jesus, I cannot. Of course, I cannot. But it doesn't mean he didn't exist. It wasn't a scripture about Pilate, but he still existed. So just because it's not there, it doesn't mean it's not.
Where did Abraham ever say that he saw him?
Well, sorry, I need to. I give you this now because I need to look it up if I want to find. However, what do you think? Although I know what you think because I heard it, but what about the Genesis is it's Bereshit 19 is a fire from Yahuah. I heard there's an idiom, but it clearly isn't. So even when in Judges 13, I believe, when the wife of Manoah says, "I saw Elohim and I lived," Hagar said the same thing. "I saw Elohim and lived." So who was that then? Was it Yahuah the Father?
Absolutely. Even Moshe said, Yah says that I spoke to you face to face.
Yeah.
Pei al pei in the Hebrew. So the New Testament is absolutely false that no one has ever spoken with the Most High face to face, because it's right there in your Hebrew text.
No,
so,
it isn't. Even is Shemot, it is 33, I believe what you're talking about, and he makes it clear that I make my esteem to walk before you. It was his esteem he saw. He says, let me see your esteem. And he says, I will make my esteem walk before you, proclaiming the name Yahuah, Yahuah. And that was his esteem walking. It wasn't him. Cannot be him. He said he cannot dwell with sinners. So there's just no way it's him. Anything else is possible. But the Father here, that's just impossible.
Well, that's not according to the text. It says very clearly.
No, he says what I said. It was his esteem. You want to tell me that he came down from his abode and he walked on earth with sinners?
Absolutely.
All right. Who was then the second one who brought fire down from the other one? And who's the one?
It just says that from Yahuah the fire came.
Right.
Yeah, I know which text you're talking about.
Of course.
And it's attributed to Yah. It's not attributed to someone else.
Yeah, it's Yah. Who's the one here on earth?
No, if Yah wanted to make it clear that he had a son, he should have said so.
But he did in Proverbs.
No, he doesn't.
Oh yeah, who is his name? What is his name as well as his son's name?
Yeah, that's another text I could easily help you with. But for now, I'm just going to deal with...
No, stay here. Yeah, you are right, sorry.
Exodus.
Let's see the fire thing. Because that's just, you cannot say it's he's here and he's there. It doesn't make no sense. And he's walking down on earth with two other people, visiting Abraham, and in the meantime he's up there. And I'm not, it's just clear what's written there. There's two Yahuahs. It's just clear as day.
I shall call up before you the name of Yahuah and before your face. So the actual word is Lamed Pe Nun Yad Kap. Exodus 33 verse 19.
Right.
So clearly before the face of Moshe, before the face of Moses, Yah passed before him.
Right.
He said, you cannot see my face. No man shall behold me and live. Verse 20. But he said, behold, look, there is a place. Stand upon the rock. Shall come before you that my
esteem.
Kabad. So
esteem. Glory.
Dalet. Yes. My esteem shall pass before you.
Right. So it's not him, it's his esteem.
No, he says very clearly, I shall cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Not my son, not someone else.
My esteem.
I shall cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Verse 22. And I shall take away my hand, and you shall behold my back. The actual word there is al chet rash yad. Achri.
Right.
It means from after me. And it shall be before your face. It says pani. My face. So he showed him. He passed before him.
His esteem passed before him. He says clearly that's his kabod.
You can't take Yah out of this text.
And I'm not.
He physically was there.
No, he cannot be there.
He covered Moshe with his hand, and he showed him his back because he would not show him his face. But he was literally there.
Yes, Yahudah was there, but it wasn't the Father. Sorry. It's just cannot be.
Well, that's your belief. That's called redaction.
No, it's not.
You are reading into the text. Yes, it is.
No.
You cannot take the text and put your own stuff in there that isn't there.
And I didn't. It says clearly that his esteem was there. And also in the tabernacle.
And that's Yah. That's his hand.
Well, when and that's not Yah. That's his hand, that's the right hand, that all that. No, we can go into that.
This is your belief that these texts are referring to a different being other than what Yah says very clearly in the literal text.
You're right, that's my belief. So and I don't blame you if you don't believe, but that's your belief.
That's called redaction.
No, that's your I don't listen. It was there, it says that this is esteem. I didn't say that. You said it's his arm. You said it's esteem. It's not the same thing. And
when you Christians, you Messianics,
Shemot 32.
Whenever you guys
Sorry?
Whenever you guys read the text, you always think that the finger of Elohim, the presence of Elohim, the arm of Elohim, the hand of Elohim,
Right.
that these are all referring to someone other than Yah himself.
Because it does.
No, it does not. Show me one text in Scripture in the Old Testament where the hand of Yah, the arm of Yah, the finger of Yah is different from Yah himself.
Well, I just showed you one here with the esteem being different from him.
I just read it. It shows you that his hand covered Moshe and he passed before him and showed him his back.
Exactly.
Where does the text say that it's not Yah?
When he says it's his esteem. That's why he says it's esteem. Listen, we can let it go, but I'm just gonna reiterate the same thing. He says my esteem. It's not him. Okay, do you think it was him on Mount Sinai getting married with Israel?
Well, the text nowhere says that Yah married his people. It says that the text of the Torah says that Israel is his son. Now, you wouldn't marry your son, would you? Of course
he does. Yirmiyahu says quite clearly. Sorry, but Yirmiyahu says clearly that they got married and he divorced them.
This is an allegorical
doesn't matter
explanation from, I'm saying that nowhere in the Torah does it say that.
It doesn't matter because Yirmiyahu says it. I saw that for all the causes for which hang on for a second, Israel had committed adultery, which is breaking of a marriage. I had pulled her away, given her a certificate of divorce. And this same thing, who's talking here, if it's the father, gonna remarry Israel. How come he can remarry once he put them away without having died? You cannot remarry your wife who commits adultery with other people and then take her back. And that's Torah as well. You must know that. So who is this who can remarry them?
The point is that Yah did not die, so he's not remarrying his people.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
why it's the son of Yah who married. Well, you have no other explanation.
I'm saying that according to your belief system, the father can give his divorced wife to his son, which is
no,
definitely
I'm not
against
saying
the Torah.
that. You saying that? I'm saying that on Mount Sinai.
No, that's your belief. The bride of Christ, Israel is the bride of Christ. Yes, according to the New Testament. So.
But I never said it was. I never said it was the father of Mount Sinai. You said that. I never said it was him. I know it wasn't him. He cannot be that. He cannot remarry. And anyway, that's quite bizarre. The father's marrying Israel. When if you look at the story of, I believe if it was Elazar and Abraham sent him, it's the same story. He sends Elazar to find a bride for his son, which is Yitzchak and Rivka. And that's the same story. I know you take it literally, and that's fine. But that's the same analogy. And you said that we can interpret stories like that. Oh, sorry. You said in one of your videos, I believe, there was a tradition and they should have followed that because Mary wasn't virgin or was no the bed covering, and they should follow. Right. So now you know that there is a tradition when the father sends someone to find a wife for his son, and Abraham, Yitzchak, and Rivka. There's three people, or sorry, entities: the father, his son, and Israel. So he cannot be the one on Mount Sinai. He cannot divorce and then remarry, but his son can. And also his son died when he came as a person. He died, got resurrected, and now he can...
These are all redactions based upon your messianic belief system. You have to read Jesus into the text when it says the name of Yahuah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Because he's
called...
Matter.
Because how do you think people understood these texts prior to your New Testament?
Let me think what you say now. So how did people understand? You mean
there was no Jesus, there was no New Testament. So when they read the text, they understood that it was Yahuah.
Oh no, I think most people never understood this. Most of the people never understood. Do you think most people understood this?
Absolutely. If they just read the text and believed it,
So
they only believed
how come none in Israel followed Torah if they understood it so well?
No, Yah said he always had a remnant of his people.
So not everybody understood it, but the remnant. But the remnant is not everybody. A remnant is a small portion of a bigger one. And
no,
that's what I'm saying.
Everyone understood that Yah gave them the Torah. It was him upon the mountain with his people. It was him that parted the waters in the pillar of fire. It was him in the tabernacle as the pillar of fire. Absolutely.
No.
It's your New Testament that claims Jesus was in the pillar of cloud and pillar of fire.
No, it wasn't
this
me.
Is nonsense.
No, it was. I just showed you that there are two Yahuahs in Bereshit 19, and you cannot.
No, you didn't show me that.
Of course,
you
I
didn't
did.
show me that.
One called down fire from the other one. It's either two fathers or there's somebody else called Yahuah.
No, we didn't read that text, but I mean we can go there if you want.
We don't need to because everybody knows this. Whoever read that.
It says that from Yah came the fire. It doesn't say that it came from somebody else.
No, I didn't say it. It does say that. I'm saying
that.
No.
You're saying that Jesus is the one
Absolutely
that it came from.
No. I didn't. I never said that.
So where's Jesus in the text then?
I never said what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but I never said that. So sorry. I have to just say I never said what you say. What I said was that there is a Yahuah calling down fire from another one in the sky.
No, it's very simple to read in Hebrew. It says his name twice. And that's for emphasis, to emphasize the fact that it did indeed come from Yah, not from someone else. So if you want to insert your Yeshua there as a second entity... I don't want to insert
anything. The scriptures rather said, and Yahuah rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahuah out of Shamaim.
Right.
And there was one down with Abraham walking around talking to him.
Yahuah did come down amongst his people.
He was with Abraham. At this point, he was there.
I don't understand where your head's at, why you're thinking this way. But clearly it's identifying that this came from Yah.
Yes.
Not from someone else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying. Listen, hang on. Just give me a second then. But listen,
Jesus is
this is the following there. It says, and Yahuah rained sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahuah out of Shamaim. Do I understand well that you're saying that the two Yahuah mentioned here is the same one up in heaven?
Yes.
All right, hang on, hold it for a second. Because in 27, 3 verses down, it says, and Abraham arose early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before Yahuah.
It's not my problem that in English, you can't put a simple period in between the two. Okay, let me just find this text. Then Yahuah caused to rain upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire. Not my fault that you can't put a period there. From Yahuah out of heaven. Very simple.
Listen, you are the one talking about
that Yah rained fire upon those two cities. That's all it's saying.
Because he was down on earth.
No, it doesn't say that.
In verse 18 does say that. He says, and Lot said to them, O Yahuah, look, please, your servant has found, blah, blah, blah. And then this conversation leads them to escape to Zoar. And after that, 23...
You're saying...
Right?
Which verse are you showing that when he rained upon fire from them, where does it say that he's on the earth at that time?
He's talking to Lot clearly in verse 18. In verse 18, a lot
Verse
is
24, it says, verse 24, that it rained fire from the
right.
heavens, from Yahuah.
Right.
Right. Okay, now go back to verse
18. It's a
There
lot.
he's not talking to Yahuah in 18. It says, "Oh, not so, my Adon." Do you realize that people are addressed as Adon in scripture?
Right?
Okay, so he's talking to the people that are with him, not to Yahuah in that text.
All right, cool. I give you that. Yeah, right. Fine.
All right. So you see how you've manipulated the text.
No, I didn't
believe-
no, sorry. I admit that that's not
He's
that doesn't
talking-
say
you
Yahuwah.
just
No, listen.
admitted-
Hold on for a
Just
second.
admitted
He
that these
doesn't.
people that he's
No.
talking to
What I'm saying
are
is,
addressed as Adon.
yeah. Oh, that's fine. That's
Okay.
that's
So
quite.
Yah is not there talking to Lut and also up in heaven. That's what you've tried to manipulate the text.
I
That he's
didn't. It
there's
says
one
that
Yah
it's
that's
written
on
there.
the
It's
earth.
Yahuwah brings down fire from Yahuwah in Shemaim. From Shemaim.
You just tried to make a teaching that Yah was on the ground talking to Lut, and there's another Yah up in Shemaim that rained fire.
But that's what the text says.
That's not what the text says, and I've just proven it to you. He's talking to people in verse 18 that he addresses as Adon, just the same as many people throughout the Hebrew text are addressed as ruler or Adon. And Yah is up in heaven, and he rains down fire upon these two cities. The text is very clear about that. So,
But sorry, but it doesn't say
you might
that.
want to
It says
rethink how you're teaching.
But there's nothing to think about. It just clearly says that one is bringing down fire from the other one.
No, I just showed you. It's not my fault that you can't put a period in the text.
I
in
don't
English.
need no periods or nothing. It's just written there.
I read the text in Hebrew for you. It's very clear that this fire came from heaven. And then secondly, it's addressing that from Yahuah in heaven is where this fire came from. It's not addressing two different Yahs. There is only one Yah. And Yah is very clear about that he's the only one. There's no one beside him.
And there is no one like him. Exactly. That's true.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean there's
constantly the New Testament
Sorry?
Constantly the New Testament claims that Yeshua, Jesus, is like Yah.
And he is like
and he's
Yah.
seated on a throne, and you worship the Lamb. So I'm sorry, you guys are committing blasphemy and idolatry.
No, it isn't. It isn't
Absolutely
at all.
is.
Mm-mm. You can't, look, let's move on from this. I just say what it says. One is bringing down fire from the other one, and that's fine if we don't agree. However, we still have to reconcile the burning bush thing, the wife of Manoah, the mother of is it Samson, and also Hagar, who all met this thing, and they addressed it as a malach. So who is that then?
You have to refer to specific texts, and it's just, yeah, you're jumping all over the place.
No.
But if you want to talk about
I
the
just gave
Malach
you a
Yahuah,
list.
that's
A
a different
list.
subject.
Yeah, right, fine. I just gave you a list of places where you can read about this entity. But I show you a specific.
Called...
No, I show you a specific one, and that is Judges 13 and 9. And it says, and Elohim listened to the voice of Manoah, and the messenger of Elohim came to the woman again, and she was sitting in the field, but Manoah, her husband, was not with her. This messenger is obviously Malach. So there was a Malach, or messenger. And if we go through the story, they talk about the birth of her son, what to do with that, and all that. And in 13, this Malach says in verse 13, they still talk with this malach. And
Right.
then in 15, they address it as a malach of Yahuah, and in 16 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't say his name in 17,
Sure.
right? And we move on. And the wife of Manoah says in 21, then Manoah knew that he was the malach of Yahuah.
Yep.
And in the next verse, and Manoah said to his wife, we shall certainly die because we have seen Elohim. So who is this then?
Verse 22. Let me see.
And I understand that Elohim refers to malachim, people, and all that. But why would they die if they just seen a regular malach? So who is this malach that you die if you see him? And his wife says, okay, if he wanted to kill us, he would have killed us. But the point isn't that. The point is, who is this malach? If you see this malach, you die. And this comes back many times, this conversation where he doesn't say his name. Sorry, let you think.
Yeah, you can keep preaching if you want. I'm just looking for the actual Hebrew here.
Yeah, you can do that.
Hold 1 second, just.
All right.
Mut. I know. Yeah, so Ki Elohim Rainu. So the mighty one we have seen. That doesn't mean that this Malak was Yah himself.
But he doesn't.
Right. And so thank you for admitting that it doesn't.
But
So,
then who was it then that if you see him, you die? So he cannot be a regular malach.
It's a
can
Malak.
it? Sorry?
Why can't it be a regular one? Why does it have to be your Yeshua or Jesus? Obviously, they didn't understand it that way.
But they were talking to him in person.
No, and this is your problem, is that you believe in this pre-existent Son in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
This is why there was division amongst Christianity and the Catholic Church and the.
But he says,
the
"I
whole
saw
New Testament.
Elohim." You understand? I
The
saw
whole-
Elohim.
the
It
whole
doesn't
New
say.
Testament.
It doesn't say, "I saw a malach and I will die." It says, "I will. I didn't die, but I saw Elohim." So who
Yeah,
was
but
that?
you
If it's
also-
not the pre-existent Son, who is this then? It cannot be
It's just a
Michael.
messenger.
No, I
It's
saw
just a
Elohim.
messenger, absolutely.
No.
Same thing with Moshe. Yah said that I made you an Elohim unto Pariah.
No, it's
I
not the
made you an
same thing
Elohim.
because this was a malach.
Yes, it is.
No, it cannot be the same thing. He says, "I saw Elohim."
Elohim is used of people, as you admitted earlier,
Yes,
and it's also used of the messengers.
yeah, that's fine, but it doesn't mean.
So
Right?
it's a familial Hebrew term with regards to the Creator and those that serve Him and are in His service, whether it's His people or whether it's His heavenly messengers.
Yeah, but the context of this text, that's why I showed you from in the middle of it, from verse 9. It just cannot be a regular malach.
Yes, it can. In the same way that Yah refers to His own finger in causing the plagues upon Pharaoh in Exodus chapter 19. And Pharaoh says, surely this is the finger of Yah. Well, it was Moses, the one that was doing it.
It can be, it just doesn't make sense.
Yah says in Exodus, I made you an Elohim unto Pariah, an Elohim unto Pharaoh.
That's fine, but it
so
still
people,
doesn't.
People can be referred to as Elohim. Messengers can be referred to as Elohim. Yah himself refers to himself as Elohim.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the context
Mhm.
determines the usage. And in this case, we're talking about a messenger.
No, we don't.
So
But
that
that's fine.
messenger
That's
was
okay.
representative
Listen,
of Yah.
people can decide for themselves is who is this. But let me. Can I just show one more? And I don't want to bother you with this thing again. But it's Bereshit 16 when Hagar meets the same thing, because this is clearly the Malach Yahuah. It starts from 7, maybe. It's Bereshit 16 and 7. And they meet at this well with this Malach. And then
Right.
he says what he says about Ishmael. And in verse 13, he says, or she it is rather, she says, and she called the name of Yahuah who spoke to her, you are the El who sees. Or she said,
Yeah.
even here I have seen after him who sees me. So who is this
Yes.
Malach then?
She
Okay,
called
so
the name
well.
of Yahuah.
So she says that this thing spoke to her there. That Malach that was there, that was Yahuah.
The problem is your English text, I'm guessing, because in verse 13, the actual phrase is Vatikra, which means and she called Shem Yahuah. She called upon the name of Yahuah. Then it says Adaber, that is to speak unto her. She says, here have I seen him that sees me.
Yeah.
So very clearly she's calling upon the name of Yahuah and saying that the Creator, the Mighty One, has seen her.
Right.
That's all it's saying.
And spoke to her. It's not all that's saying, he spoke to her.
There is Yah.
Sorry? Would you repeat
It's
it?
not saying at all that the messenger is Yah. It's saying that she called upon the name of Yah.
No, he doesn't.
Not that the messenger is Yah.
He says that. And she called the name of Yahuah. No, she called the name of Yahuah that spake to her.
No, it's not what it says. I just read it to you from the actual Hebrew.
It doesn't matter. Listen, you want to tell me that all these...
She called upon the name of Yah. It doesn't say that she called the messenger by the name of Yah.
No.
Come on, man.
Listen, I'm not talking about the called. I'm talking about the spoke to her.
She doesn't say that the messenger that spoke to her was Yah.
Okay, so what it says?
It says very clearly that she called upon the name of Yah.
Yeah, but the called has nothing to do with what I'm saying. I understand that she called.
Does. Has everything to do with what you're saying. You're saying that this Malach is known as Yah, or he's the second entity of Yah.
So what does that dabar mean in that verse, or whatever that is in Hebrew?
It means that the messenger spoke to her.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She calls the name of Yahuah, who spoke to her.
No, it
so
says
who spoke?
that
Who's the dabar referred to?
Obviously, Yah spoke to her through the messenger.
But the messenger was there.
She's calling up, and the messenger is not Yah. Obviously.
No, why is it obvious? But from what is it obvious?
Because she called upon the name of Yah.
Right. And we cannot call when he's there?
The messenger is not Yah. She called upon the name of Yah.
Saying you.
No, saying the Hebrew text.
No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that.
Yes, it does.
He says, you said that before, you just said it, that he spoke to her. The bar refers to Yahuah.
No, the messenger spoke to her.
But that's the same thing.
It's not the same thing. It's equated to that in your theology. You're messed up.
But there is a messenger, right?
There is a messenger that's separate from Yah.
No.
And clearly the text says that Yah...
But it depends who you say Yah is. If you say the Father, yeah, of course it's different. Because that's his word, which is his only begotten Son. Even though, I understand you don't believe this, but I do.
Right.
And this text clearly just say this. This one
I'm
Samson
just trying
was.
I'm just trying to read these texts simply for you so that you can get
Well, you
this stuff
don't
out of
need
your
to,
head. But
because I
you
can
obviously
read it
don't
in
want to.
10 different languages before me, and you cannot say that all 10 different translations are wrong when they say all the same thing.
It is wrong,
You
man.
want to tell me that these
You can't
10
read Hebrew.
translations are wrong and you have the right
Absolutely.
translation?
I just read for you the Hebrew.
But that's the same as is written here right in front of me.
No, it's not the same.
But it is.
It's not.
All right. Listen, it does say the same thing. She was there, spoke to this messenger, and she identified it as Yahuah. She called
she
it
did not.
Yahuah.
She called upon the name of Yahuah. It doesn't say that she called the messenger Yahuah. Come on.
Okay. From the context.
You want to try again?
No, I don't need to. I showed you 3 different places, or not you actually, but
You haven't showed me nothing yet.
But say you.
Show me one place where I just read, so anyone watching this can see.
Yeah, of course they will.
They're gonna read it or watch
they
it.
will. You know, they will read it in
Good.
their language, and they will see that from the context of Judges 13, Bereshit 16, and the Sodom story, is clear that there is a messenger who is different from the rest of them, and people call him Yahuah, address him as that, and they know it's different because the wife of Manoah says, "We saw this and we didn't die," and that's what they will see. And they can go and read their own translations, all 10 of them, which says the same thing as you just reinforced. She called the name Yahuah. And who was speaking with her? So that's what they're gonna see. But, you know, listen, this is why I said, I don't agree with what you say, and you don't agree with me. But maybe we shouldn't focus on convincing each other, but just let people see and decide for themselves. And we still did not address the marriage thing, which you won't be able to address according to Torah, because there's no explanation how he can remarry or redo the covenant with his bride, which you think is the father.
It's allegorical.
It allegorical
The
or
whole
not.
marriage thing is allegorical, obviously.
Yeah, and it has to reflect reality somehow. Why would he? Why would he use adultery?
According to your thinking, it has to.
No, sorry, sir. Listen, he's talking about marriage and adultery just so many times. You cannot say it's all just he couldn't find a better word or a better metaphor to liken his relationship with Israel. It's only marriage, and it's nothing like a marriage. He can just redo it. Huh?
You know, you can create your own theology if you want, but when Yah says that Israel is his son, it's not literal.
No,
he doesn't have a wife up in. No, he doesn't have a wife up in heaven that he had sex with.
But he can adopt
and
the
Israel
son.
is not literally Israel is not literally the son of Yah.
Of course it is. Adopted.
It's allegorical.
It can be adopted son, and it don't need a wife and don't need nothing.
You're not getting my point. It's not literal that Israel is his son. It's not literal. It's allegorical. So when Yah says that we are sons of Elohim, it's allegorical, not literal. He doesn't have a wife in heaven that he had sex with and bore a son through.
Oh, hang on now. So he created Adam, and I'm the son of Adam. So am I not the son of his? And he was the father of Adam.
Yes.
So hang on. There you go. So I am the son of Elohim. Literally.
Allegorically.
No, literally.
You're not
listen,
literally.
He created Adam. He was his son, the son of Elohim, Adam. And I am the relative of Adam. Hence, I'm the son of Elohim. Literally. Not figuratively or allegorically. Literally. Am I wrong?
Yah did not have sexual relations with someone to bear a child.
Doesn't need to.
That's my point.
He created it. And
so
he was the son of Elohim.
You are a son of
is
Yah.
Is Adam not the son of Elohim?
Creation.
Is Adam the son of Elohim?
Allegorically, yes. Not literally.
What does literal mean?
Means that Yah is our creator. So just because you take a piece of wood and you create something out of a piece of wood, does that make it your child? No.
That is different. That's a wood.
Something that you created.
But that's wood. That's not a human being. You cannot liken a different, this different material.
I'm just saying it's not literal. Yah did not physically use
But
his seed to bear a child.
He doesn't need to. I think what you're talking about, you equate, you think birthing from a woman is the real, and it's not the real. That's the allegory. That's just something for us to understand what it means to be son of somebody. That's why
All
he
I'm saying is
created.
that however the text uses these words, it's clearly in our relationship to the Creator.
Yes.
Not literal. So,
But no. But let me try again.
You're not literal. You're not literally
let me just try it again.
the bride of Christ.
There were sons.
You never will be.
There were sons before human beings, because Bereshit 6 says, the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of man, that they were good. So who are these sons of Elohim?
Well, the sons of Elohim are the righteous ones. The sons of Anush are the base people that don't follow Yah. Text is clear on that, and there's lots of Jewish rabbinical commentaries that you can consult on that matter.
And who are the sons of Elohim in Iob chapter 1 and 2? Are they people too? When the sons of Elohim gathered before Elohim and sung him?
So
and there was
this again goes back to what we talked about earlier, which you admitted, that Elohim can refer to various things, whether it's malak or people.
So
it depends on the context.
When that reinforces my statement, that the Bible you cannot always interpret literally, which you said is always literal. Now everything is allegorical. So how come an hour ago everything was literal? Now everything we talk about is allegorical, even sons, like the basic things. So which one is it then?
There are different methods to understanding the text. The first one is literal, which we call pashat.
That's what I said.
Right. Okay. So in any case, what we're talking about here,
you said I read something Jesus in it and I spiritualize it because it's literal. Now you reading all sorts of things because it's allegorical. So you understand. There's no hard feelings, but you cannot accuse me with things that you do.
I don't read into the text things that aren't there, which is what you do.
No, saying it's allegorical, it's exactly that. It's reading into it. Because you can interpret it the way you want. That's why it's an allegory. It's up for grabs. Whoever reads it, they can just interpret it the way you want. That's exactly what it means. If that's an allegory, the third person gonna come here and he's gonna read it differently. That's why so many interpretations. That's why I told you. It's not literal all the time, which it isn't. But maybe it's time to, for you, it's too late there, right?
It's okay.
You can carry on, but I think we might just reach the point where
sure.
It's just, I don't want it to be there any hard feelings, because whatever we talked about before, I still think that. I don't agree with you many things, as is quite apparent, but I don't want any.
It's fine. I just wanted to have a general discussion with you, not to publish this or broadcast it or whatever.
Sure.
So just me talking with you. But we'll do an official debate on Deuteronomy 30. I'm not sure what your standpoint is going to be or what you're going to argue for, but I've already given you the structure, and now at least we have a format in which we can use for that. So
Do you want me to send you this?
No, I didn't want it to be published. This was just me trying to reason with you.
All right. So is there any... so you don't want me to... Well, because I could just publish it easily, and I could send you, and you can publish it if you want, and anybody can see this. As you said, that anybody can see this, and they can make up their own mind. It doesn't matter. Or does it?
It does matter because,
right.
You know, like I said, that Genesis 19 thing, I could easily do a proper lecture on that, and we haven't. So...
But it doesn't matter, because you said what you wanted, and you convinced that represented the truth. So we can just put it up. If you don't agree, listen, I won't put it up, obviously, without your permission. But I don't see no reason why this cannot be seen by anybody, and then let just them decide what they want to think about all this. And then we can sit down and
that's fine.
We can discuss and we can debate after the way we agreed, then that's fine. But I see no reason why people couldn't watch this and then make up their minds. There's nothing you said or I that is so bizarre, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah, if you want to publish, that's fine. I just want the viewers to know that that this wasn't an official debate. This was just a general discussion. I didn't realize it's going to be published, but I mean, regardless of that, I mean, it's okay.
I send it to you, and you can also share it, and then you can discuss with the people who are more close to your views what they think, and then that's fine, you know. I don't see no problem with this. Okay, Sha'ul, look, if there's anything, can it not be on Shabbat? Because there's just so many things here I need to do. But any day, if you prefer evening, then, you know, for your evening time, I don't mind really. Just let me know. And whenever.
The problem is that our time zones are so off.
It's 9 hours, I think.
Right?
I'm ahead 9 hours, so it's very inconvenient for you because it's too late now or there. So just 9 hours. I don't know what the best is, but I'm ahead 9 hours, so maybe the morning for you or something like that.
Email me some dates of your availability, and I'll get back to you to see what could work.
Any day is fine. I do this full time, so I don't mind. Whenever you find time, just not too late here. Just add 9 hours, and if it's not too late, then that's fine. So maybe if we can say, if we start 7, maybe that's okay. 6 p.m. latest, 6, 7 p.m. latest. That's fine. But I'd prefer.
Like for me, you mean?
No, for you. The ideal would be for me if we start your morning. 7, 8, whatever you wake up, because I add 9 hours, and then I'm still in the middle of the day. But the later we start, the more it's later here. So just think about your time.
Like next weekend, I guess it would be
26th. 26th, Sunday.
Yeah. In the morning time.
Your morning.
For me. Yeah.
Okay, what time? What time your morning?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. there, that would be +9, 17, right? That's 5 p.m. here.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Cool. Excellent.
That works for you?
That's fine. That's cool.
Okay.
All right, Sha'ul. Thank you, and I'll see you next Sunday then.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. Valakinek kérdése van, javaslata vagy hozzászólása, megtalál minket ezeken az elérhetőségeken, és egyben lehetősége van mindenkinek arra, hogy amennyiben hasznosnak találja a munkánkat, hozzájáruljon ahhoz. Így még több emberhez el tud jutni az információ, és nem csak egy oldalú lesz ez a folyamat.